Good morning, guys, and really welcome to our How Cloud has moved out of the hype into full business necessity. So thank you all for joining us today as we examine the lessons learned from rapid cloud adoption and how organizations are overcoming performance and availability issues. While we wait for Dan to join us so he can kick off the discussions, I just want to do a little bit of roundabout between the gents to give us some background info, where you come from, and really what you guys do.
Thanks a lot, Kerry. Hi, everyone. My name is Charl. I'm the practice lead for infrastructure as a service at Altron Systems Integration. Like a paintbrush, I have had the pleasure of fulfilling different roles, and I've come through the ranks at Altron Systems Integration from a survey engineer to solutions architect and now a practice lead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Luca Relandini, based in Rome, Italy. I'm a principal architect at Cisco in the data center and cloud team for EMEAR. I am father of two, and I've realized that it's easier to lead a mission-critical project than have a family with two daughters, a female cat, a female dog.
Morning, everyone. I'm Donnie van Graan, and I'm the practice lead for the Altron Systems Integration cloud business. I'm based in Cape Town, beautiful Cape Town, and I've been with the Altron group for a while and really excited about where we're taking our business.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tjerk Bijlsma. I'm based out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I wish I was there with you in South Africa. My role within Cisco is I'm CTO for our cloud offerings inside Cisco in the EMEAR region, and that obviously covers South Africa. So very, very happy to provide support on this event with Altron.
Thank you so much. And in preparation for this, I was having a look around at some of the news articles that have come out, and one of them that stood out for me is the honeymoon over for cloud. And we are talking about where do we put workloads and why are we looking at the organizations in a new light. And I think we can all agree that there's no longer a cloud strategy, that there is a strategy that companies are taking across. And I think our Altron friends are seeing a lot of people that are looking at workload placements in a new way today. And I wanted to learn more. So I'm really excited about this. Let me ask the Altron team, really, why is workload placement even an issue today in our architecture? I thought we just took everything to the cloud. Charl, maybe you want to kick us off and educate me on why workload placement is so important right now.
I think the biggest problem that you're sitting with at the moment is that there was this huge hype around the hyperscalers that had presence in South Africa, and everybody wanted to move their workloads to these hyperscalers. And now you're sitting at a stage where everybody's experiencing bullshit. It's one of the latest words now. And how do you start showing savings to business? And that's where the problem comes in. Your hyperscaler said, please move your workloads to us, and then we'll optimize or modernize your applications. Now you're sitting in a situation where the same team that did the migration still needs to look after operations, and there's no time or no resources to assist with optimization.
Okay. Luca, in South Africa, we've seen some of the OEM vendors disincentivizing their salespeople from selling anything on-prem to a negative on their number. Have you guys come out of that from a Europe perspective? A little bit of an unfair question, but are our salespeople propagating more and more cloud? Or are our salespeople now getting more into solutioning for customers from a European perspective?
To be honest, I see many consulting companies are touching the horse where the customer wants. That means they are seconding perceived will to go to cloud. Sometimes this is the result of an analysis. Sometimes it is just following the trend. But we see, of course, many customers moving to public cloud. So their cloud strategy actually means cloud first or cloud only. But we also assist to a kind of repatriation of some workloads because it makes sense to run them on-premise for a number of reasons. Cost optimization, security, compliance, and so on. So there are movements on both sides, and there is a kind of balance.
Okay. So we're looking at a hybrid world which is now entrenched, we've got on-prem, we've got in private data centers, and we've got the hyperscalers all in play. It must be quite difficult for the CIO to keep up with this. Daniel, if I can get you off mute for a moment and ask you, are you seeing any common mistakes being made when they're looking at this workload placement? Are you seeing people rushing into the cloud since work from anywhere is so popular? Or are you seeing sensible decisions being made with our CIOs?
I definitely think, like Charl alluded to originally, there was quite a hype around this, and a lot of people, when the hyperscalers landed in the region, a lot of people actually moved to the cloud. I think what we've seen is it's quite a systemic approach that people should take when they move into the cloud. And I think that's where a lot of customers are lacking. So they're not taking into consideration all the different components that comes into play before you can move into the cloud. Now, this varies from, your business drivers. Why are you doing this? Because the reason why you're moving to the cloud shouldn't only be based on cost. It cannot only be an IT discussion. And people need to take your business drivers, your cloud economics. So what is it going to look like? When are you going to grow past that migration bubble? Because there are going to be initial costs. You need to look at your development practices. You need to transform those. It's a change in culture for your people. And we're also seeing from a security perspective and from an operational perspective. Now, all these different aspects or components of the bigger system needs to be considered, and that's why we're referring to the journey to the cloud, taking more of a systemic approach than just trying to move a workload as an IT project into the cloud, where it should look at the bigger ecosystem.
I really like that. I like, Donnie, that you've slowed me down as well, and I think that the way I've joined this webinar is almost how people went into the cloud. It's like, let's move it to the cloud. And now sensible business is coming through. I wonder what the impact has been on our users with this it's almost like the gold rush that we experienced at the turn of the century in South Africa. Tjerk, have you seen users kicking back against this rapid migration, or are they actually the drivers for this rapid change and adoption into cloud?
There's not a single answer to that, Danny, from my perspective, right? If you think about users, we got to define what we call a user. Is a user an employee using IT services, or is an employee your customer using your IT services?
Okay.
Personally, I use IT, right? Right now, we're using this web conference. I honestly don't care where it runs. I just want it to work. Right. So from my perspective, I don't think users care if their IT department runs things in the cloud, hosted at Altron, or in their own data center. Right. They just want it to work. And if the business decides the best location is cloud, great. If the best location is Altron, great. If the best location is their own location, great. The one thing the end users care about, from my perspective in the conversations I have, is their experience. And that is something that has fundamentally changed if companies are starting to distribute their applications across multiple different locations, clouds, right? We need to make sure that the user's experience matters. To me, that's the one thing that people care about.
Excellent. Okay, I like that. So if we've now established that we're going to have this hybrid environment, we're going to have workloads placed everywhere, and the main emphasis is that the user shouldn't be affected. So if we take what Tjerk's been saying there, is it should be irrelevant. It's kind of like me and my money. I want to go to the ATM, draw the money. I don't care where the bank keeps the money, as long as the money is there and accessible when I need it. What does that mean from an IT perspective? Charl, how do we keep a view over everything that's out there effectively? And I know we're going to use a 3-letter acronym, and I usually find people in alcohol. But this FSO, can you talk to me a little bit more about that, Charl? What is that?
I'm glad to, Daniel. And I think I just want to take a step back. So what we're essentially trying to achieve here is we're trying to assist our customers to access any application on any cloud from any platform anywhere in the world. But with that, you need to have the guardrails. And how do you measure that? And we need to do that, help them to access the applications. But we need to provide consistent application delivery, user experience, governance, and security. And I feel that the three-letter word that or acronym that you're looking for is FSO, that we're very happy to partner with Cisco on. And that is giving you full stack observability. So that is, how do you apply a SLA to your hyperscalers to make sure that the SLA that you need to provide to business, that you're being held accountable for, you will still be able to achieve.
Okay, so if we are looking at how we're going to be managing this, is there a poster child in our area of what we're trying to get to? Is there an aspirant level that we can set, that we can work towards, that shows us, yes, this is what we can dream of if we're a multinational that wants to use this? And I'm assuming we're talking about big people here. We're not talking about my IT shop, which just failed. We're talking about enterprise level. Are those the people who can aspire to managing this to the level that you're talking there, Charl?
Yes. So the biggest thing is here that we're giving full stack observability. And what that means is from the user straight through the WAN to the LAN to the application. We're giving them visibility of what is happening. If there is a anomaly that is causing problems, how do you pick up that anomaly? Because now if you only do APM, which is your application performance monitoring, you only have visibility within the application. If you only look at the infrastructure, you do not know that, okay, my team looks after infrastructure, okay, but nothing's wrong with infrastructure. Now I need to go over to the networking side. So by using FSO, it gives you complete visibility over all of those components. And I think that your time to assist and to fix a problem will be quicker. And you can also see what the impact on monetization level is by using this application.
I get that, but what I want to ask is there a poster child out there that's getting this right?
Cisco.
Let's hear from Cisco. Right. Come on. Tell me about it. How does it work, Daniel?
I think what we're seeing, and I want to take it back to the systemic approach that I discussed earlier, and taking into consideration all the components of the ecosystem. And I think what we're seeing is where customers are taking that step back and they are considering all these different aspects and planning for them. So your first step would be making that decision around workload placement, then only looking at your migration and your integration to see how it is going to integrate into the rest of your ecosystem. Once you've done that, there's that continuous operation and monitoring and management of your environments. Also from a security perspective, doing the monitoring, and then one will see how things are performing and how things are really doing. And then with cloud giving you the flexibility that it does, you can actually make changes on the fly and you can actually change your operational environment. So it's not a case where we're used to procuring infrastructure and we can't change the current environment. We can very quickly change that environment, adopt to the changes in demand, and then continuously improve. So it's a cycle that we will go through if we can observe the whole ecosystem on a continuous basis.
Okay, I like that. Luca, you came off mute there. I took it you wanted to answer because everything in Cisco is in cloud and nothing's on-prem. You guys run. Was that
no,
not really?
That's not true. Probably now we can all agree on the concept that cloud is not a place, it's an operational model. So wherever you place your resources, you should be able to manage them the right way, the same way, with a single operational model, single tools. So with software applications that are fundamental in the digital business these days, being so distributed and heterogeneous in technologies they use, and sometimes depending on services or microservices that are out of your control because they are provided by a vendor or by a partner, it is very difficult to ensure the consistency and the quality of the user experience. So it is very important to have full control, visibility, and correlation of this information, because just having a dashboard with dozens of metrics, one besides the other, doesn't help you to make the system run better. So this complexity is beyond human scale. And now machine learning comes to help, because we have wonderful tools that can not just collect that information, but also correlate them, create a context that makes it easier for the different operations teams to understand where the root cause of a problem is, or if a problem is going to appear in short time, so that they can also do proactive modification. So there are a number of use cases, thanks to this correlated context, that can help with ensuring performances and cost efficiency and compliance and security.
Okay. Can I add in there, and also at the same time answer one of the questions that came in from Harriet? You asked who's getting it right? And this isn't about, I'm not going to name individual companies, but this is more about, can you afford to get it wrong? Right? And what we're seeing is the obvious examples that are always used are companies that make money with their websites, like an online retail shop. Right? Those are the easiest examples to use, because you can directly relate monetary impacts to an outage or a bad experience on online ordering. We've all experienced this in our private lives, right? When the experience is bad. But think about hospitals and patient care that have online systems, that a bad experience doesn't necessarily cost money, but it costs a negative patient experience. Or I've had conversations across Europe with cities, town councils, right, where you can't say as a citizen that you can move to a different city because you don't like the website services of your city, right? You're kind of stuck, and the city is at no risk of losing you. However, they can lose your participation in collaborating, at which point you become an unconnected citizen, right? So being connected and having a good experience for the citizens of your city, that's a key performance indicator if you run the website and the services for a city. So it's not always about money, right? It's getting people involved that matters. So it matters to all types of businesses, whether you are directly responsible for making money in a commercial institution or if you're in a government public sector agency. But Harriet, to your question, right, is there an acceptable trade-off? In my opinion, no. The one thing that matters is the end user. If the end user's experience is bad, as a business, you could have made a trade-off, but you just lost the experience of that user, right? So I don't believe that you're allowed or you should be making trade-offs to customer experience.
That is quite a big statement to make, Tjerk, but I really like it. I think that if we've got the customer at the center of our thinking when we're placing our workloads, then we can ripple effect out of it. But there is a trade-off that you're going to be making, because one of them is going to be finite, which is budget. And we need to consider where those budgets are coming from when we are architecting. And Pandile has asked a question, how do we bring different workload placement options together? And I wouldn't mind, Dani or Charl, if you had a thought around that, because we've got Tjerk's opinion, which is workload placement must not impact the customer. But I'm saying somebody's got to pay for this. I mean, we could all have live backup on our workloads, and that would be pretty funky because I'd be making some money off the sale. But is that reasonable? So Pandile's question again is, how do we bring different workload placement options together in order to? And I'll leave that to you, Charl and Daniel.
I think you need to have a very structured approach, firstly, when you start looking at a workload placement strategy. And firstly, you need to decide where the applications and the data assets should reside in the various systems. Secondly, and this is just really on a high level how you get there. Secondly, you must take into account all the system interdependencies to ensure the most optimized cost and performance efficiencies and making sure you achieve those. And lastly, you need to ensure secure and compliant operations within the larger business environment. So once you've placed certain workloads in certain architectures, it's important that you can operate that and that it is very secure. Then the process to actually bring it all together, this starts with your migration and your modernization initiatives. And this is a complex task. We've seen people simply lifting and shifting workloads. But what we've seen, if you really want to do it in a proper way, and you start by looking at it from a business perspective and then mapping the relevant business perspective to the right architecture, it can really become a complex task. But one must basically consider all the different architecture patterns that will then deliver that business outcome. So I think once you've completed your workload placement, you need to look at how do you migrate and modernize. The second one, you need to build in security almost at the core of everything. So DevSecOps, we at Altron have our previous development, security, and operations departments are now working in a new way where we deliver it according to modern DevSecOps practices. So that's the second one. The third one is once migrated, and I've also alluded to that earlier, once migrated, we manage, we operate, and we maintain workloads across these different platforms. So then you need to continuously improve your operations by monitoring and managing the workloads to make sure you maintain that optimal performance. And then the last one to bring it all together is, as a result of your monitoring, you want to plan up front for certain exit strategies. So you may place something in a certain architecture or on a certain platform that doesn't work. I mean, as I said earlier, it's a complex thing and we're not going to get it right the first time. So we need to plan for when things is supposed to move around and move outside of current platforms where we maybe incorrectly placed those.
Donnie?
Can I add a comment to this?
Yes, Luca.
Of course, making a decision about the workload placement requires data points. So we need to have a full-blown information about how the application is running in a specific place, what would it cost to move it, and what are the expected performances. Of course, you can base that on experience of similar applications and similar architectures, but of kind of calculation that removes the guesswork is important.
Yes.
So if you have a tool that helps with a kind of what-if analysis, you can even analyze scenarios before you make the actions. So you can understand how much it will cost, how will the application perform, and what are the technical steps that you need to take. That is part of the full stack observability matter, in a sense, because there is a combination of tools that are targeted at the important use cases of performance and optimization of the cost. So earlier you asked about budget. I think there are 2 points. Of course, if you can correlate the application experience, the user experience to the business KPI, you can also understand how much money you are getting more or less than you expect based on performances. And maybe that would help allocating the budget in a better fashion. And also sometimes workload placement can be at zero cost or even a saving activity, because if you move a workload to the right place, maybe you can save money from wasted resources that are allocated and not useful to reach the stuff. So you can swap virtual machines from one place to another one, you consume the same resources but perform better. Or maybe take advantage of the reserved instances in the public cloud that cost less than spot instances and so on. Okay. So having visibility and correlation is very important in my opinion.
So Luca, when I'm sitting here and I'm listening to yourself and Donnie, it almost seems too complicated to now start repatriating workloads. And we've just got this structure in place. In order to take advantage of what Johnny and Charl are saying, do I need to re-architect my whole environment again? Or can I segment it depending on workloads and look at them each? And my actual question is there a paint by numbers recipe that a customer can follow in order to go through to see if their architecture is optimal?
Okay, I see two asks in that. One is about the re-engineering of application if you want to move them to the cloud or eventually back to home, in a sense. We know that the simple lift and shift project does not add any value. Probably it will even perform worse than before. So every time you move an application that is older and does not been designed for the cloud to a cloud, of course, you have to revisit that to study a cloud native architecture that would require some work to change the application. So in some cases, it is worth, sometimes it is not. It depends on the business case. But also, I kind of understand the question about the impact of introducing full stack observability. So really, you do not need to change the application or its architecture to introduce the kind of control we need, because full stack observability is based on observing a system from outside, intercepting every breath it takes through API calls to the runtime platforms, to the infrastructure, intercepting metrics, events, and logs, and correlating all together. So you have a kind of engine that picks data in all the places where they are available, including introspection of the software runtime, without any need to modify the application to adapt to it. You will create a number of dashboards that allows the operations team to understand what's going on and correlate that to the business KPI, also for the lines of business that own the application.
Okay, so pause there, Luca. I think that's a really good point, and I'll put it in the chat there. We don't have to re-architect the entire environment to put in FSO, full stack observability. Donnie or Charl, does Altron have something which is South African specific on how customers can gauge where they are in the journey? Is there a consulting engagement that goes in? How would you answer us here? This is where you are and we can move forward from here?
So I think that it's two things. The one is it comes down to a digital transformation. One is using technology. The second one is looking at culture. What is the culture of the organization? And to do that, use tools, tool sets, as well as questionnaires, and to look at what are they trying to achieve by moving this application. If it's a cost-saving exercise, it's a commercial model that you're moving to. It's not cheaper than having on-premise solutions.
Okay.
The biggest thing, will be that we look at cloud readiness assessments. How ready is an application? Not a customer, but an application to move to cloud. Is it a monolithic application? Is it a modernized application? We look at those results and then we determine what is the best location for that application to move to. And that is why with Altron, we do not have a cloud strategy that we lead with hyperscalers, but we rather assist our customers to look at their type of workloads and where to move them to. What we try to do is to look at a hybrid model, because all applications are not going to be fit for cloud. And in that hybrid model, we create a technology fabric that interconnects all of those locations together. FSO is one of those solutions that we can introduce that also supports the hybrid model and fits into this technology fabric. course, we can look at hyperscalers, private cloud, and then on-site applications. And we can do the correlation between those applications and look at the individual application, how that application is performing, as well as your infrastructure in public cloud as well as on-premise.
So, Carrie, don't throw a stapler at me when I say this, but Charl, are you offering a single pane of glass to look at the entire... Did you say, I think all the attendees just went, no, Daniel, you didn't say that. But is that what we're going for, Tjerk? Is that the holy grail of the new IT ops, IT management? Where do we want to go? A single pane of glass to look at our whole hybrid environment?
And so everybody always talks about that single pane of glass.
I know.
And I don't know which word, I don't know which variation of the word pain they mean, right? Pain in ow or pain in looking at something. From my perspective, it's slightly different, right? Everybody has multiple operational teams. And we're all trying to get to a mean time to innocence, if you will, faster. So where is the source of the potential problem? If something is truly broken, right, it's relatively simple. The problem is when it isn't broken, but it isn't working completely. Okay. Where is the root cause of where you need to go? How do you find out in which domain you have a problem? Is it security? Is it the service provider? Is it the cloud provider? Where is the domain that has the problem? And it's that finger pointing. And instead of pulling together war rooms to figure out where it is, and everybody's going to look at their own tools, everybody's going to say, well, mine says it's green. Yeah, true. But we need to look at things collectively, one data set that all the operational teams look at. So that one pane of glass doesn't have to be one single GUI. It has to be one single source of data. And then the SecOps team can look at it with a security lens, the apps team with an app lens, the network team with a network lens, but everybody's leveraging the same correlated data. And yes, in some cases, that is a single dashboard. In other cases, you might want to dive deeper into a specific dashboard. To me, that's way less relevant than the single source of data.
If we do this and we are moving to the single pane of glass, bearing in mind that we now have a work from anywhere strategy with integrations happening at agile speed that are rolling out for us to keep up with the marketing team next door, what are the risks that we are introducing into the environment that our attendees should be aware of? Maybe, Luca, you've been quiet for so long. Let's get to you. What are the common risks that people miss that they should be picking up when we are going for this overall view of our application architecture and our landscape?
Really, I do not see any risk in adopting. As TJ said before, the risk is in not doing that, because you could miss very important information about the digital business you are doing, and you are losing opportunities, you are losing grounds to your competitors, because consumers that are not satisfied with the service you are offering to them will immediately switch to another company, another brand, giving you the same.
Okay.
So for sure, if you don't do that, you risk a lot. If you do it, of course, you are spending some money to procure the solution. Let it be a custom build that you want to create in-house or a vendor solution. That is investment, but it is paying back very soon, thanks to the understanding of problems that are there or that might come, and you can anticipate and avoid.
That is a great answer. Thanks, Luca. I really like that. While you were on there, Jacques asked a really interesting question, which, Dani, I think is for you or for Charl. And Jacques says, as a traditional hardware reseller, we've declining sales, and DCs like AWS, the hyperscalers, are jumping up like mushrooms with very little advantage for local suppliers. Stacks and software are mainly written and supplied from overseas vendors and suppliers. How is we as South Africans going to add value and stay competitive in the global market? So
maybe I can start responding to that more from a business perspective. And I think the first thing, it actually starts with Gartner reports that was written years ago, is the one warning is when you start your cloud journey, don't look at cost as the main driver. Rather look at what can you give your consumer or your end user in terms of giving him something, a product that you can take to market faster. So your typical time to market. Look at the agility with which you can roll out new solutions. And look at the increase in maybe customer experience. And then you weigh that up against an increased cost, which you don't feel comfortable selling to your customer at this stage. But if you look at it over the longer term, and I think what we've started seeing is that big organizations take 3 to 4 years to actually get to that break-even point. But from there on, and smaller organizations get there quicker, but that's what it takes. Big organizations, it takes time to actually get to that point where you're seeing the benefit. And I don't think it is a question of whether you're going to go to the cloud. I think we passed that stage. You have to make this decision. So I think to answer the question from a business perspective, we have to bite the bullet and we need to start making the move. And again, if you look at what the reports are saying, where workloads are going to end up by 2025, I think the most recent reports say 30% will be on-prem, another 30% will be on edge locations, and then another 40% will end up in public cloud environments. So I don't think that market is completely going to disappear, but we need to embrace the newer environments, whether that's edge or ultimately public cloud.
I think it's 30-30-30, because 30 is on-prem, 30 is in cloud, and 30 is like 10% nobody knows where it is, because I think that sometimes we get marketing teams and sales, they just go ahead and do their own thing. Charl, I'd like to repose that question to you, because I think it was more of an opportunity from an Altron perspective. Is, are you looking at your services generating revenue from overseas? Now, from a Tech Central perspective, I do podcasts probably 5 a week, and 4 of them on security, and 1 of them is regarding companies. And of all these companies, they're all getting revenue from over the waters. Is Altron in the same way? Are you extending your services outside and looking after people using this one pane and management that you've learned? Or are you focused here in South Africa and SADC only?
We offer services all around. The biggest thing is that we leverage the Gartner quadrant mostly and offer products and solutions that are in the Magic Quadrant on the leader scale. What we aim to achieve is that we assist our customers as well to provide these solutions on a CapEx basis, but to enable a technical capability within the organization without the need for CapEx investment, but wrapped around with managed services. The whole thing about selling the solution, there's only limited margin that can be made from there. And how we add our value is by offering the services component to our customers to assist our CIOs and CTOs to look good in the eyes of business, not to have the outages. If they have an outage, how quickly can we assist them to respond to their outage? So I think it comes back to, it is products and solutions that come from overseas, but they've done all the R&D. Why do we want to reinvent the wheel? They do not have the technical capability on the services side. And that is where we add the value as a systems integrator as well.
Awesome. Guys, we've got 14 minutes left. And I want to go around, and we always end in the same way. And I'm going to give you a little bit of prep time, because we're going to pick on Tjerk first, which is, what are you working on for the next quarter yourself from a management perspective? what advice do you have for any of our attendees who want to look at this rollout and want to get this single pane of glass out there? And I'm thinking of their team empowerment. I'm thinking about their software, what they're looking at. And I'm thinking about their strategy, because a lot of us are getting into a budgeting cycle. So if you've got a piece of advice there, but I want to start with, what are you most excited about that's being released in the next 6 months from a technology perspective that's going to assist customers in how they manage their environment and look at it? So we're going to pick on Tjerk because he seems keen to go. So Tjerk, over to you. The first one is, what are you most excited about from a technological release perspective in the next 6 months?
So you kind of surprised me with that one, but from a technology perspective, right, I'll give two answers. And one of them is related to FSO that we've spoken about, all right, that helps with workload placement, but also ensuring the customer experience. And FSO is a new offer that we've put out in the market, and I'm extremely excited about it. And I speak about it probably 4 times a week with customers and partners. But if I look at the roadmap that we have in this domain and the acquisitions we're doing in this space that are going to end up into and enrich the FSO solution, right? It's amazing. But the reactions of customers are truly significant. One key component of FSO is an acquisition we did last year called Thousand Eyes. And Thousand Eyes in itself measures and gives visibility of networks that you don't own. So the service provider networks, connectivity to SaaS providers. And the customer reaction to that, right, has been truly amazing. And I would argue it's one of the better acquisitions that we've done from the time that we've acquired them to where we are now. The interest is amazing.
Wow, I wouldn't mind, while the rest are giving theirs, Tjerk, please, I put Thousand Eyes gives visibility of SaaS providers. Why don't you pop your thoughts on that on the chat for our attendees? That would be awesome. Donnie, what are you excited about from a technical release perspective? You look over the moon about something.
I think mine is not necessarily from a technical release perspective. There we're relying on the likes of Cisco to come up with exciting solutions like FSO that we've been discussing today. But I think what excites me is how we as Altron have integrated our previously siloed practices.
Oh, wow.
And the way that we're working together now, because we used to have development on the one side and security on the other side and operations and data and all of these as isolated practices and departments in our organization. But we're busy tightly integrating those to take that more coordinated message to the market. And I think that's definitely something that we can help our customers with as well, to not see these things in isolation, the different components of your business, but rather look at it from, as I said earlier, a systemic approach in taking your business forward in this new digital environment.
Awesome. I like that. That's really an interesting way of looking at the question. Now, Charl, we'll end with Italy last. We'll end with Italy. What are you excited about from a technological perspective?
So FSO is great. I think that it hasn't reached the hype that it should. I think customers have not realized what we can achieve by implementing FSO, and everybody thinks that, it's a really expensive solution. I think there's trade-offs that can be made. So on the one point, I'm really excited about that. The second one is that where we're moving to as an organization, we also have a solution called Safe Harbor, where we can actually assist customers that are experiencing that bill shock to take a step back, to utilize our DevOps practice. They have 300 DevOps engineers where we can help them to modernize that application, make it fit for cloud, and then move it back. So I think it's also very relevant. The customers are sitting in that situation where they're between a rock and a hard place. They've moved to the hyperscaler. Now they realize it's not working and they can't get CapEx budget to repatriate those workloads. What do?
Yeah.
You find Altron.
Where can we find more details on that? Is it on the website?
Yeah, on the website, on Altron Systems Integration, there is a contact us form where we can assist them. But they can also contact Daniel or myself. We'll put our email addresses in the chat as well. And you can reach out to us. We're happy to assist even if you want a demo or POC on FSO, more than happy to assist with that.
Stunning. Luca, last but not least, what are you most excited at from a technical release perspective coming out of your stable? If you've got any early information, you can tell us as well. We won't tell anyone.
No, what is really exciting is how easy we are making it thanks to software as a service delivery of the solutions, because you do not need to install anything on-prem. The components of the FSO solution are all shipped from a cloud-based environment. So you get an account, you attach it to your environments with no need to install local agents and stuff, and you will see the result very easy. So technically, it is amazingly easy. Of course, it requires some experience. So our partners, like also Altron, are fundamental in matching the quality of the solution with your needs and the infrastructure and cloud you are using.
Awesome.
We will increase the services thanks to acquisition and work that we are doing in-house in the engineering. As an example, the service mesh, which is a way of managing the interconnection of different microservices to create a compound application, allows you to route the traffic, but also to apply security and, of course, get information and KPI about how the application is working in such a dispersed way. So we are going to release additional components to the solution, and they are all based on the SaaS platform that allows for a consistent operational model of all your resources, both on-premise and in the public cloud.
When will the SaaS offering for FSO be available?
It is available. So,
then that's not new. I took it down. I thought we were learning something new.
No. Okay, the service mesh will be an addition. And this is coming. Mesh. Yeah, it is coming next month. So it will apply the same use cases and same categories to Kubernetes-based applications or OpenShift, all the microservices, most important platforms that are used.
Excellent. Right, we have got 5 minutes left. I'm going to pick on Tjerk and Donnie for this. Tjerk, for a customer that's not going to use FSO, what advice do you have for them with regards to how they can monitor their applications? Essentially, what would you say are the 3 things they need to focus on to stay out of trouble?
So you said if they're not going to use FSO,
they're never going to be an FSO customer. They just, they don't believe.
Okay, no, then I got the question right. So if you're not going to be an FSO customer, to me, the first thing that you need to realize as a company is that measuring and monitoring experience matters, right? You might not have the full capabilities to deal with it, but it has to be in your operational processes somewhere that you're going to be monitoring what we would consider the customer experience itself. The second thing, if you're not going to be looking at FSO, I would still highly recommend that you look at this, when we put it into chat, right? This one component of FSO called Thousand Eyes, right? Because to me, that's the lowest hanging fruit to say you would still want to be able to monitor the experience external customers have of your websites, and you would want to monitor the experience your employees have with services that you offer. So if you're not going to do the full-blown thing, at a minimum, measure and monitor the connectivity between a user, a customer, and the application through the Thousand Eyes portfolio that Altron can help you with.
Excellent. Thank you, Tjerk. Donnie, for someone that isn't lucky enough to work with Altron and they've gone with someone else by accident, we understand it's the wrong way to go, but they've gone with another partner. What would be the 3 pieces of advice you would give them when they're checking this digital transformation and now we're looking at this hybrid architecture that they're getting into? What are the common areas that they should avoid making problems?
So maybe just starting with more of a statement, and I think people shouldn't see cloud as a destination, but rather as a new operating model. So it must not be a destination that you want to get your workloads in at all costs, but think about the new way that you're going to operate your business, because it is a more agile, flexible way in which you're going to run your business. And then I think the aspects that must be considered in this operating model, I think security is extremely important. So you need to find a way to keep a handle on that. You need to also make sure where your data resides and make the right decisions on that, and monitor the flow between your different platforms as far as your data goes. And then lastly, try and use AI to actually enhance the experience of your customer. But in order to do that, you need to enhance the operations firstly through AI.
Excellent. Thank you, Donnie and Tjerk, Charl and Luca. We're up on the hour. If you have anything apart from throwing a glass at me afterwards for not giving you more airtime on this, we can chat about it. I want to thank the four of you for being excellent panelists and giving us your time. We can only get better by learning from leaders in our space, and you guys clearly are. Thank you for your time and for sharing with us some views, some opinions, some I agree with, some I don't, and that's what makes a good, decent discussion. From my side, Kerry, I'm going to hand back to you and just thank you for allowing me to facilitate.
Thanks again, guys, for attending today. I really hope that you found today's session insightful and that we've answered some of your questions. Cheers, guys. Have an awesome day further. Stay safe, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.